Wizards of the Coast has fully revealed the 5-color Commander Pre-constructed deck for Lorwyn Eclipsed. 5-color Precons are always ambitious, and Dance of the Elements has a lot going for it. If you love elementals, you get a strong thematic core, a surprising number of high-impact creatures, and a commander that enables very explosive turns. The deck is not perfect, but the foundation is strong. So today I will walk you through the commander and how this deck actually functions, the best card in the deck, the deck's strength and weakness, how to power it up, and what I will cover first. So to understand why this deck works, we need to start with the engine that holds everything together, the commander. Ashling the Limitless. Ashling costs 2 and a red, is a 2/3 elemental sorcerer, and she does 3 very important things. Elemental spell you cast from your hand have evoke for 4 generic mana. Whenever you sacrifice a non-token elemental, you create a token copy of it. That creature gains haste, and we need to sacrifice it on our end step unless we pay Uber. What I really love about this design is that even though Ashling can be a 5-color commander, she doesn't force us to build it that way. We can easily focus on 4 colors, 3 colors, or even 2 colors if we want. The deck still works. Our commander is incredibly powerful. Giving elementals a generic color evoke cost is huge, especially when we start stacking cost reducers. In some games, we can evoke elementals for 0 mana, which is absurd. And because we are sacrificing creatures, any blink spells like Ephemerate or Fake Your Own Death let us keep the original while still getting the token, meaning extra bodies and extra ETB triggers. Let's use Fury as an example here. Fury is normally a 5-mana 3/3 with double strike. We have the option to evoke it by pitching a red card, or with Ashling on the battlefield, we evoke it for 4 generic mana. When Fury enters, it deals 4 damage divided as we choose. When it dies, Ashling creates a token copy of it. Then the token enters, deals another 4 damage to any target creatures or planeswalker. The token also gains haste, so we can swing for 6 double strike damage. That's 14 damage in total, and creatures removals for only 4 mana. By the way, Fury is in the stock list. I was actually surprised when Wizards include this many high-end elementals. It really shows how strong the deck can be right out of the box. One quick note, I will never pay Uber to keep the token. If I have 5 extra mana to spend, I would rather evoke another elemental and keep the value train going, unless I desperately need a blocker. Now we know that Ashling likes creature with good enters the battlefield effect and smash our opponent with hasty creatures. Let's talk about the best card in the deck. First, we have Millstone Wanderer. This card is very powerful. It costs 5 and Temur, so 8 mana in total for a 7/5 elemental. It has Cascade, and creatures we control have haste. With Ashling on the battlefield, we can evoke it out for only 4 mana, and we get to Cascade twice for 7 mana or less, and a 7/5 hasty creatures. This card alone can completely swing a game. Then we have Wisdom Whiff, one of the best elementals ever printed, and it's still incredible here. Whenever it or another elemental you control enters, look at the top card of your library. If it is a land, you may put it onto the battlefield tab. If you don't put that card into play, put it into your hand. Wisdom Whiff is a very strong card draw engine in the deck. It whamps us as well and snowballs incredibly fast. Selvala Heart of the Wilds is amazing. She's especially good because our elementals naturally have high power. She generates a lot of mana, so we can cast more spells. The deck has a lot of big elementals, so we are likely to draw some cards from her before she gets removed. Vernal Sovereign. Whenever this creature enters or attacks, create an elemental creature token with power and toughness equal to the number of creatures we control. I don't usually like this kind of card, but this deck absolutely needs it. Ashling often struggles with board presence because we need to sacrifice our creature at the end step. Vernal Sovereign fixes that by creating permanent bodies that actually stick around. If your playgroup has a lot of aggro decks, this card is crucial. Mask of Mysteries, the backup commander of the deck, and this card is really good. It costs Uber, a 5/5 elemental that has First Strike, Vigilance, and Trample. At the beginning of your combat, another target elemental gets Myriad until end of turn. It means we get 2 more ETB triggers from our elemental. It synergizes very well with Ashling because we can cast it for 4 generic mana to get around the 5 color casting cost. It also doesn't say non-token elemental, so it works well with the tokens created by our commander. And then we have Yarok, the Desecrate. It doubles our ETB triggers in an ETB deck. It's just so good. It also has 2 relevant keywords, Death Touch and Lifelink, keeping us alive in the long game. Titan of Industry, this 7 mana 6/6 elemental does everything we want. When it enters, choose 2. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Create a 4/4 Rhino Warrior token. Gain 5 life or put a shield counter on a creature we control. On top of that, we can smash someone for 7 damage right away. Usually I don't really care about the shield counter, but this deck can really use some protection. The shield counter is actually relevant when protecting our commander. And then we have Flame Blader and Smoke Blader. These 2 are worth mentioning together, because they are 2 cost elemental that tap for 2 mana and fix our colors. They also enable explosive early turns. If you see one of them in your opening hand, you're in great shape. When everything comes together, turn 2 mana dark, turn 3 commander, and turn 4 big elemental, the deck feels very explosive and unstoppable. But unfortunately, it also is the reason the deck can fall apart. The deck is extremely fragile. If our commander gets removed early, the deck basically cannot function. The average mana value is 4.22. Missing a land drop and not having enough ramp feels awful. Broad Presence is often weak because we have to sacrifice the token copies. So how do we fix that? To power up the deck and reduce its weakness, I'm going to give you an upgrade guide in general, and you can adjust it based on your budget and playstyle. First, we have Renew Solidarity. This card is criminally underrated, and it's only $5. It is way cheaper than any token doublers. It does the same thing by doubling our ETB triggers and let us keep our tokens. It only costs 3 mana. It also works very well with so many encore elementals in the deck. Sundial of the Infinite is another way to keep all the tokens we create from Ashling. On our end step, when the sacrifice triggers are on the stack, we can just spend 1 mana to end the turn, and we keep all the tokens. Grave Sifter is probably the best card in the deck, as it always refill our hand with all elemental in our graveyard, including itself. Honestly, we might not need to run 30 elementals to win with this deck. If we manage to loop one of the big elemental over and over again, it's probably enough to outvalue our opponents to win us the game. Flamekin Harbinger, it tilts any elementals to the top of our deck for only 1 mana. It's cheap, efficient, and it's perfect setup. Anima, Soul of Elements. It's pretty much mandatory. One of the best elemental, especially in this deck. A growing threat that can be hard to remove, and if we manage to put 4+1/+1 counter on him, we can basically evoke all our elementals from our hand for free. And then we have the Cavalier Cycle. They all have great ETB and death triggers, and they are perfect for Ashling. The green one is already in the Precon. I think it's worth including them, especially the red one and the white one. The only downside is their color pips. It's hard to cast without our commander. Watermouth Fiber. This card is ridiculous. If you evoke it with Ashling, it gives you multiple sacrifice or discard triggers, or it can deal 16 damage to each of your opponents. If you also happen to have Roaming Throne on the battlefield, it is insane amount of damage. Let me know in the comments if you can figure out the math here. Shroud Stomper, a 7 mana 5/5 with Death Touch, and with Ashling on the battlefield, your opponents will lose 6 life, and you gain 6 life and draw 3 cards. That's crazy amounts of value, and it's just a good card in general. Next, we have Wumblewee. This is a budget Craterhoof behemoth, but in this deck, it is probably better than a Craterhoof. You can evoke it for 4 mana to give your whole team +6/+6 and Trample. Wumblewee itself is also an 8/8 with Vigilance, Witch, and Trample. It's just so good, and the card is only 40 cents. Of course, we cannot just keep adding cards forever. To make room for these upgrades and to improve the consistency, some cards have to go. And here's what I would cut first. Chromatic Lantern is a 3 mana rock. I think we can definitely use something better once we start upgrading our mana base. Timeless Lotus. I know this is one of the money cards in the deck, but it just doesn't provide us with any value. It's basically a 5 mana do nothing. Elemental Spectacle. We don't really care about the 5/5 tokens. It also requires us to have some kind of setup to get value from it. I think this card is okay if we are playing the backup commander, otherwise this should be an easy cut. Shatter the Sky. A 4 mana board wipe is not bad, but I think we can do better, especially when we are playing 5 colors. We can run Avatar Wrath, Toxic Deluge, or Farewell. Springleaf Parade. This card is great in gold white token deck like Balin the Haymaker. Since we are mostly making just 1 or 2 tokens on our turn, I think it's not worth running. Hoofprint of the Stack. I think this card is just bad. You need to pay 2 mana upfront and then pay 3 mana to get a 4/4. I don't like it. Easy cut. Gigander. I like this card a lot in many 5 color decks. However, we don't really need 5 colors to cast our spell, and we can't even use this mana to pay for evoke cost. I'm sorry, but I have to cut it from the deck. Quick Swap. A 3 mana removal that only exile a creature. They're just too slow. For 3 mana, I prefer Beast Within or Generous Gift 100% of the time. Kindred Summons. I think this card is overrated, and it just win more. It requires us to have elementals on the battlefield. If we have an empty board, this card does absolutely nothing. I also don't like the randomness. If we already have a board, for 7 mana, we might as well just run Cradle Hoof and finish the game. Muldrotha, the Grave Tide. I think this card is a trap in the deck. Sure, we can reuse the elemental in the graveyard. The problem is that Ashling only allows us to evoke elementals from our hand, not from our graveyard. Muldrotha itself also has no ETB triggers, so it just doesn't provide enough value for 6 mana. There's one problem you will still feel every single game if you don't address it. The mana base is rough. The deck has 40 lands. 14 of them enters tap 100% of the time. 3 of them enters tap if you don't meet the condition. Only 23 lands enters untapped, including 16 basic lands. These numbers are crazy for a 5 color deck. When building a 5 color deck, it is better to lean our mana base into green so that we can ensure to have access to green mana to use our early ramp spell. The secondary color should be red, as our commander is red, and there are 2 red creatures in our deck to help us ramp and filter our colors. Putting 5 in lands here is also a very bad idea. Not only are they slow, but also impossible to keep track of all the color we choose. How do we possibly represent and remember the color throughout the game? But the good news? Shock lands just got reprinted in Edge of Eternity, and most of them are under $10 a piece. So this is the perfect time to upgrade. Overall, I really like the deck and I just love Elemental. Ashling is a very powerful and explosive commander, and with a few upgrades, Dance of the Elements can play very well in mid to high power tables, and just spend $30 on the mana base, add a couple of good elementals, and we are good to go. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more Lorwyn Eclipsed coverage, and let me know how you plan to upgrade Ashling. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.